Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and today we have the Pixar story. This is a 2007 documentary, so it's a number of years old. A lot has happened at Pixar since this was made, but this is very much about the beginning. It is an hour and 32 minutes long, and it's a documentary by Leslie Iwerks. It is the origin story for the animation studio we know and love, and it goes all the way up to Cars. So you get an idea of what it's building towards, and I imagine just little peeks at what might be to come. I don't know, but this is all about people who have the imagination, the dreams, the drive, the setbacks, and everything else, and the connections to make these dreams of furthering animation, furthering storytelling in a new way, and with a new technology, in a way that hadn't been done before, and that many people thought could not be done, or just it wasn't worth the effort. There's a lot of these guys went to school together, and there's just it mostly centers around John Lasseter. You'll know that name, definitely. He is not with Disney or Pixar anymore. You could probably read a tabloid here or there as to the reason why. There is no mention of anything along those lines in this documentary. So yes, it is. There's no text at the end that what happened to them after this date. No, this was made in 2007, and it stands as it is, the way it is. So I'm not going to go into any of that. It's not to be ignored, certainly, but it is not part of the origin story, regardless of what went down in the later years, more recent years, since 2007. There's no denying the impact of John Lasseter, Steve Jobs, Ed Catmull. Why can't I remember his name? Why can't I say his name? Albie Ray Smith, Ed Catmull. I want to say Catmull, Ed Catmull, and George Lucas. That's one of the things, being a big Star Wars fan, that whenever you see that, oh, hey, George Lucas, ILM, and so many other creative people from that era had such a huge, at least seedling part in what Pixar would become, what other technology, what other film making things, the tools we use today, even from just film editing tools, sound effects, things like that. How nearly every film you watch today is usually mixed down, and their final audio is done at Skywalker Ranch, or a Skywalker studio somewhere, if it's not in Marin County. It's done by Skywalker. The word Skywalker is pretty much used in almost every movie that is relative, pretty much top tier film, regardless, throughout the world. Well, throughout Hollywood, yeah. So I find it always neat that the impact of Star Wars has stretched to just about everything we watch, even if we don't realize it. But this is not about George. George does make appearances. There are a lot of archival type of interviews. So or maybe this was him in 2007. I don't know. I have a feeling that it's a little bit earlier footage, because you can kind of tell the way the footage looks as to what decade it was filmed in. And that is to tell you that this is not the first time people have talked about where did Pixar come from? Was it so special? Why did it have hit after hit after hit and make such a big impact on the animation and film universe in general? And this documentary pretty much takes you step by step, year by year, through all of that. It's not so much meticulous in dotting the I's and crossing the T's. It's more about seeing how everything connected that led to these moments. John Lasseter going to school and knowing Brad Bird and knowing a number of other different people early in his life, and lucky to get a job working at Disneyland and getting a job with Disney in other means. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. You should watch the documentary. And eventually, saying, hey, I like to do animation. We want to do animation. Oh, here, you know what? Here's a number of people that we're bringing in to do some animation. And, there's a thing called, we can do digital, do computer animation. We can do computers to do things. scaring all the old people with that, thinking they're all going to lose their job and that animation will be ruined forever because it'll just be robots doing it. You've heard that familiar thing being said about everything ever since computers have been, anytime computers are mentioned, like, oh, the computers are going to do all of our art, and it's going to do all of our music, and it's going to do all of everything. It's going to do all of our jobs. It's going to take our gerbs, and everything goes away. We don't have jobs. No, that doesn't become the case, because the computers, no matter how much AI we have right now, at least right now, the fireworks, it's 4th of July is yesterday, still fireworks, because hey, why not? Sorry, you may not have heard the explosion, but that was a big explosion, not made by Pixar. Anyway, we get to see how everybody just gets knocked down and gets right back up again in many cases, and they kind of set their goals on stuff that is literally considered impossible. When it comes to, and when it comes to also, it's not just even from a technology standpoint. When it comes from some storytelling standpoints, having a philosophy of telling these stories, and a lot of this is inherited from the 9 Old Men, and amongst other people. If you know who the 9 Old Men are, then you're a Disney animation fan. You know exactly who they are. So you get to hear from them a little bit, and the few of the guys that are still around are interviewed, at least at this time, are interviewed in this as well. And you get to see Lasseter, you get to see Pete Docter, you get to see so many others that step into roles that did not exist before them. Some guys came in and started working on computers, and they had never touched a computer before, a personal computer, to do this type of thing. It was literally learning as they worked. It's to me, it's kind of just astounding. And this is also very much about helping to save animation. In many ways, I mean, animation was not doing well, even after the Renaissance of Disney Renaissance, with all the other films that were coming back. And again, to think that, it all started with Toy Story. No, it started well before that. You can see bits and pieces of which the shorts are available here on Disney Plus. You can see how everything falls into line in order. And it's kind of, for me, it's the first time me seeing the order in which everything was birthed. And it's to me, it's pretty neat. So if you're a person who's an artist, you're an animator, you want to be in the business, you want to see how this stuff happened, or you want to create art, animated art, in a way that currently isn't viable, isn't real, you say, well, how can you not know that something like what you want to do doesn't exist yet? How can you tell it? There's a point when computer animation was not a thing. It was not a thing that anybody could do. All animation was done by pencils and pens on paper, and then through the layering machine, all that stuff. How they did Snow White and everything else. All that stuff, whether it's television animation, cartoons we've been watching forever, to big motion pictures, all that stuff evolved. And so it has with computer animation. The young Sherlock Holmes, the stained glass knight, I should say. That's a huge stepping stone. Of course, there's references to Star Wars. There's references to Jurassic Park. There's all these things that you don't see as in animated films, but you see as things that were technologically impossible, that inspired the next step. And it's also a story. This is also kind of a story, tells a story of how you can almost be a victim of your own success. And I have to admit, they do kind of softball the tensions that were between Disney and Pixar for a time. They talk about it, absolutely, but to me, it felt very much more tense when it was happening way back when Pixar was like, hey, well, thanks for bringing us on and having us make this movie. Oh, you want to do sequels to our movies without our permission, without our involvement? There was a time in the 2000s, or at least in the late 90s, that Disney would just basically take any of their IP and just start cranking out crappy, for the most part. Some are good, but not great, some crappy sequels, direct to video. Just slap it on a VHS and put it out there for people to mass purchase. That's how it worked. VHS, yes, VHS, even in the early 2000s, especially in the early 2000s. Disney kind of said, hey, well, there are our stuff now, right? Not that they ever really asked permission, but there was a lot of changes, a lot of shakeups in the corporate end that helped keep Pixar alive, and there's a little bit of drama here to be seen. So I think this is very much, if you're interested in that whole business thing, whole creator rights. Well, I mean, they sign deals, so it's creator rights. These are their babies. What are they going to do to keep those babies? And who's going to come along to help them keep those babies? And so we get to see young Tom Hanks and Tim Allen talking about their roles, young George Lucas, young everybody. Everybody's young in this. It's 20, 30 years ago, some of these interviews, at least. But yeah, fans of animation, fans of Disney, fans of understanding where digital was first introduced into Disney 2D animated films. That's there. That moment is there, and it's something to see. I think to me, this is the kind of documentary I love. And I'm gonna sneeze. I feel like it. No cuts. Anyway, this is a really long way of me saying, if you're into animation, into the origins of everything here when it comes to Pixar and animation in general, major top level animation, because they are the vanguard of some pretty amazing stuff. Yeah, there's plenty of indie people out there who've done all this on their own in different ways, and they're not to be forgotten. But we're here. It's Disney Plus. It's Pixar. They're gonna talk about this, and this is where you can see it. So check it out when you get a chance. It's worth knowing your history when it comes to animation. Let's pick tomorrow's episode.
201.
201. Come on. Scroll. Oh, I know the battery's low. I'll charge it. Oh, wow. Speaking of those sequels, we're getting a movie for the first time in a really long time. We've had a lot of series and some shorts and, of course, documentaries out the wazoo, but we're actually getting a movie. But speaking of those, I'm not talking about remakes. We got all these live-action remakes of classic Disney properties. Yeah, we got a boatload of those. But there's also those sequels. Were they needed? We'll find out soon enough with our latest entry, Lady and the Tramp 2, Scamp's Adventure. Is it going to be good? Is it going to be worthwhile that they took the time to say, animate this story and just put it up there? I imagine this came out at a time since Pixar existed. And I realize, they're not going to put everything out in 3D. Not everything has to be in three-dimensional animation, but sometimes Disney got cheap in order to make the big bucks. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. Maybe it was worth the money. Lady and the Tramp 2, Scamp's Adventure on the next Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that.